Go.
Alright, the election of 1796. John Adams is the Federalist candidate. Thomas Jefferson is the Democratic Republican candidate. These two great friends are not so great friends anymore, given the debates during Washington's administration, and the relationship's going to sour even further during this election when it comes to the attacks on the positions of the parties, even some attacks on character. But let's look at this electoral map of 1796. We want to ask ourselves, your understanding of the first party system, does this electoral map reflect? So we're analyzing this, we're looking at the context of this map. Does it correlate with what you know about the first party system? What do you think?
I think it does, because the Federalists are more concentrated in the Northeast, on the New England area, and as well as the more commercialized economies on the coast where the ports are. And then the Democratic Republicans are based in the West and the South, where that's...
Awesome. Yeah, so we remember that primarily the Federalists have a concentration of support in the New England area, in the Northeast area. We see that. Let's understand that Adams is from Massachusetts. That might have something to do with that kind of electoral loyalty. But Jefferson is getting his support from the West and in the South, given that he's from Virginia, plantation owner, and that works. There were some electors in Virginia and North Carolina that went Federalist side. We have a mix here in Maryland as well. There were probably electors that had more commercial interests, preferred the Federalist ideology as opposed to the Jeffersonian ideology. But it was very close, 71 to 68. Very close, but Adams gets that majority out of the Electoral College. Does actually win the popular vote here as well. But Adams is now our second president. He's the Federalist. He's going to continue those policies that we saw with Hamilton's inspiration and Washington's enactment. We're still going foreign policy. Again, foreign policy is going to have domestic impact, okay? And so we're still trying to debate on what we do with the French. The French finally established a republic. They're still in the middle of their revolution. It's getting intense, and now the French are seizing our ships. Because remember, we didn't help them out, and so they don't want to make sure that our ships aren't going to British ports. And maybe they think that we're helping the British against the French. So, Adams sends a delegation. Okay, sends John Marshall, you'll remember that name. Alright, Elbridge Gerry and Charles Pinckney. Okay? Elbridge Gerry is in gerrymander. You don't know that yet, juniors. Alright? And Charles Pinckney, who we saw the Pinckney Treaty, sends him to France to try to end this impressment and seizure of American ships. Well, the Minister of the United States, Talleyrand, and some of his agents, who Adams refers to as X, Y, and Z, approached the delegation, and in order to meet Talleyrand, these agents request bribes from the American delegation. You want to meet with the French Minister of the United States? Cough up the change. Give us some money. Which is totally off protocol, insulting to the United States. It's a matter of major disrespect on the foreign policy network. And they, of course, reject this, head back to the United States, inform Adams of what transpired, and Adams is livid. And the American people find out, and they're livid. So, remember how the American people were so pro-French, with Citizen Genet riling them up to get support for France during the French Revolution? Now the tide has turned. After the XYZ affair, the American public is anti-French now, which is not really going to help who? Politically, who is it not really helping?
Or Democratic Republicans.
The Democratic Republicans, right? The Jefferson camp. This is not going to look good. So the Federalists are really going to have an advantage. They're going to have public opinion on their side. And this can help push through their policies. Because understand, the Federalists do have a majority in both the House and the Senate, and they have Adams, Federalist, at the White House. So they can really push policies. Alright? Now, this is only going to inflame the relationship between the United States and France. And it gets to the point where we have this quasi-war. This is actually a war between the French and the Americans. It's really a naval conflict. It's really American ships and French ships. But there is never ever an official declaration of war by Adams. It's under the table. It's happening beyond official documentation here. And Hamilton is trying to convince Adams, let's just go full force after the French. Of course he would. Of course he would. He's thinking about expanding American territory. He wants America to be great. He really wants to take it to the French. You don't treat Americans like this. All right? He wants to get those. And he's thinking about getting those lands, more French and Spanish lands. Adams takes a more cautious approach, and it's actually going to be a very controversial approach for Adams. He's going to. The American public's pushing to go to war with France. Hamilton's in his ear trying to push him to go to war with France. And Adams decides, listen, I'm going to think like Washington here. Our Army and our Navy is still not ready to take on a strong imperial power like the French. We can't do it. We'd be risking too much. We can't do it. So Adams never officially calls for a declaration of war against France. And that's actually going to cost him. But it's still the idea of the French antagonizing the American public is going to allow the Federalists to pass some pretty strong legislation. So we're looking at the Alien and Sedition Acts. So we have the Alien Act, we have the Naturalization Act, and we have the Sedition Act. We're going to break this down, okay? Deport or jail foreign citizens believe this threats. Okay, we could have French infiltrators among the population. Okay, if we think they're dangerous, we can deport them. Get them out. Maybe without much due process. I hope you're starting to see some parallels here. Okay, all right. And, naturalization, we're going to increase the residency requirement to 14 years. You want to be a citizen? Got to be here for 14 years. That's tough. That's really tough. Alright? So, let's actually go to why we have an ulterior motive. Why would the Federalists do this? Because you think about, what does it say to you? Let's not even talk about the Sedition Act yet. That's even awesome. What about this? What does that say to you, given our principles of which we were founded upon? What does it say to you? Why would they pass this?
It's contradictory because it was a land based on immigrants.
Okay.
And on top of that, but it also provides Federalists with the power to kind of kick out anyone who is going to threaten the government with any type of ideology that contradicts the Federalists, especially with French immigrants or French sympathizers who might be Democratic Republican.
Oh, so immigrants to America are heading to which camp? Which party?
The right.
So the Republicans, right? That's the ulterior motive. Not necessarily to deport these individuals for national security. They believe that. But the ulterior motive, the political purpose here is to weaken the Democratic Republicans. Because more and more immigrants, that's where the Democratic Republicans appeal to. They appeal more to the immigrants. Makes sense. You're an immigrant, you come over, you're gonna probably have to be a self-made man, right? You're probably gonna come over here, not have too much wealth, basically start all over. And remember that's part of Jefferson's vision, is that someone that, that common folk. Well, that appeals, they appeal to the Democratic Republicans, and that might strengthen them. And as they head out west, they start, that's where that's where more land is, and that's gonna solidify the regional domination of the Democratic Republicans. So the Federalists want to try to prevent that, limit that. And so there's that ulterior motive. And then there's the Sedition Act, prohibiting the criticism of the president and his policies, and of Congress. Why would they do this? Because this, of course, if you're the Democratic Republican, if you're Jefferson, how are you going to respond to this?
You can't.
You can't, oh, you can't, by law, you can't, that's right, okay? But, can you though? Fundamentally, philosophically, can you respond to this?
Yes.
Can you, should you be able to criticize your government?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's what? Where can we find that?
The Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights, where?
First Amendment.
The First Amendment, you have free speech, you have free press.
Free petition.
You can petition for redress of grievances. This is fundamentally flawed. This if you're Jefferson and the Republicans, this is great ammunition. It's as if the Federalists just gave the game away. Like, oh, thanks for that. Okay? I thought you were all about, and maybe this says, oh, that's why we have to have a Bill of Rights. Okay? Maybe that, they can make that argument. But the ulterior motive, maybe the Federalists don't want criticism of the Federalist Party, weaken it, limit it. Obviously controversial. Obviously going to take away from Adams' popularity. And the Democratic Republicans are going to use the press to protest these laws, and they're going to emphasize the democratic principles of this and individual liberties, and the Lockean political theory and that sort of thing. But they go further. The Kentucky and Virginia resolutions, written by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, respectively. And it's there where that's the response to these Alien and Sedition Acts. What are they focused on? Do you remember from your readings what the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions were designed? What were they targeting? Other than going after Alien and Sedition Acts, what were they? What was their basis for writing this? No? Anybody? What do you think? You remember, right? From your IDs? Oh. Okay. Kate, you got it?
Yeah. It was mostly they utilized the Lockean theory that we should be able to overthrow or revolution to create a revolution against a government that is obviously not listening to our grievances.
Or violating the natural rights, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who was able to do that? What do they say in the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions? Who can stop the federal government from taking it too far?
We can.
Who's we?
The citizens themselves.
Actually, we can, but who else can? The states. The states. Because according to Jefferson and Madison in these resolutions, the states entered into a compact. This is what we call compact theory. And I'm planting a seed, okay? Compact theory. That when the states ratified the Constitution, they entered into a compact, this social contract. The idea that the federal government will do its responsibility to guarantee a Republican form of government, make sure that they won't go too far, but apparently, according to Jefferson and Madison, the federal government has gone too far with the Alien and Sedition Act, especially the Sedition Act. And so, since the states entered in compact, they have the right to determine federal law, if in violation of natural rights, in violation of the social contract, can nullify federal law. And that's a key word we're going to be hearing about as time goes on. That the states can nullify federal law. The states can themselves determine that a federal law is beyond its powers, it's beyond its limits, and can be nullified by the states. So the states can ignore them. Alright? However, if you're a Federalist, how will you counter this argument? Can states nullify federal law? What do you think? You're going like this. But you gotta give me the basis. You gotta make sure you can tell me why a Federalist may say this theory is simply that, a theory. I don't even know where is the basis for the states having the power to nullify federal law. When we understand, if we read the Constitution, what is it about federal law? Federal law is what?
The law of the land.
The supreme law of the land. The Supremacy Clause says any laws and treaties under the Constitution are the supreme law of the land. So states really can't just nullify federal law because they think it's unconstitutional. There's a process to that. If you want to challenge federal law, there's a process for that. Okay? And states thinking that they are in this compact, and that gives them the idea that they can nullify federal law. Understand that Kentucky and Virginia didn't really, resolution. No other states went this far. Kentucky and Virginia are alone on this. So this is still theory. But again, we still have this battle brewing between what the role of the central government and the states are. And now we're getting more into this battle about compact theory, that's part of the states' rights, the nullification as a power of the states, whereas the central government says, I'm the supreme law of the land, our law supersedes state and local laws. We're starting to have a philosophical, political argument here that is going to continue throughout our time here. Rematch. The revolution of 1800, the election of 1800. Okay? Why do they call it revolution 1800? You understood why, okay? Or if you agree with that, that's up to you. But it's a rematch between Jefferson and, that's not John Adams. Okay? Who's that? Aaron Burr, who was Jefferson's running mate in the election of 1800. Both Democratic Republicans. Adams is running again, but because of the quasi-war and him not asking for a declaration of war against France, and with the controversial Alien Sedition Act, the Democratic Republicans launched a major press battle against Adams and the Federalists, and are able to sway public opinion back to the Democratic Republicans' favor, and are able to get Jefferson to victory. I'm sorry, wait a minute. No. Jefferson didn't win. Because Jefferson is tied. Not with John Adams. See, John Adams only received 65 electoral votes. Jefferson received 73 electoral votes. But John Adams is out of the picture now. But here's the problem. Aaron Burr also received 73 electoral votes. But JP, that's Aaron Burr's the running mate. That's it. Then we should say, all right. Except the Constitution doesn't, there's a part in the Electoral College in the original Constitution that doesn't designate an elector casting a vote for a president or vice president. It just says this guy and that guy. And so, Aaron Burr doesn't really say, oh no, I was supposed to be the running mate, I'm supposed to be the vice president. No, he just says, oh, I guess it has to go to the House. I guess you're going to figure out. The guy doesn't take the initiative and say, no, I'm supposed to be the vice president. No, he's going to take his chances. He's going to think he's got a shot. Alright, I'm going to take my shot. Oh, but Aaron Burr's going to take the shot. Alright, I'm going to take my shot. Alright, Jefferson's like, what? What's going on? So, what happens next? According to the Constitution, if we don't have someone with an electoral majority, we've got a tie, it's got to go to the House. And the House, originally under the Constitution, is the old House. Not the newly elected one in 1800, because the newly elected House is Democratic-Republican majority. No, it's the old House. And guess who's running the old House? The Federalists. And they're like, oh my God, please. Oh, this is beautiful. We are so going to take it to Jefferson. This is our shot. we're going to take it to him. We're going to embarrass him. We're going to choose Burr, and we're going to make him look so bad. Oh, it's awesome. But there was one Federalist.
Oh, man.
There was one Federalist who said, whoa, 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 whoa. And it was a major debate. The House is debating. What do we do? What do we do? Oh, let's embarrass him. What do we do? But some people are saying, whoa, 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 no, Jefferson. No, we got to get Burr. This is our shot to really embarrass the Democratic Republicans. So one Federalist goes and tells the Federalist Congress members, listen, you're going to be surprised I say this. You have to pick Jefferson. You got to pick him. How could you pick him? That's your sworn enemy. You hate each other. You've been enemies ever since day one. Why would you even think about picking him? Listen, I know I told you you'd be surprised. And you're probably upset, and you probably don't believe I'm saying this. I'm telling you right now, you got to pick Jefferson. You got to go with Jefferson. This guy is bad news. This guy is bad character. This guy is unprincipled. I disagree with him on many fundamental issues. No question about that. I'm not a fan of him. But he will be the better president. He's the one that's got to be the president, not this guy. This guy's thinking about himself. This guy has a better idea about the Union. This guy's thinking about himself. You got to go with this guy. You got to go with Jefferson. I know, he's my enemy. And the Federalists, I can't believe this. And so, fortunately, the Federalists in the House listened to Alexander Hamilton and picked Jefferson over Burr. And Burr becomes the vice president. And that's going to add to the animosity between Hamilton and Burr. Okay? Alright? So, it's getting interesting. But, we know that Jefferson's going to win. But why do historians call it the Revolution of 1800? Yes?
Because for the first time in, the history that they're used to, especially with like European history, they changed the entire party composition without any violent means.
Exactly. The Federalists were in control of Congress and the White House. And now, Democratic Republicans are taking the White House and Congress. Power is changing. And everyone was quaking in their boots. They're all like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Is there going to be a civil war? Are we going to have a violent revolution? Are the Federalists willing to give up that power? Is John Adams going to walk out of the White House without, is he going to stay there and put up a fight? Are we going to entrench themselves? Is he going to have the military on his side? Are the Federalists going to open up the Capitol to let the Democratic Republicans in? Is this going to happen? I don't know. We've never seen this before. Are we going to do this? This is weird. And the world is watching. They're like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And guess what happens? The Federalists that lost went home. And the Democratic Republicans that won walked in. Jefferson walked into the White House. John Adams left. And there was no fighting. There was no revolution. There was no civil war. No deaths. No need to call martial law. Nothing. Nada. A peaceful transition of power occurred. Ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution works. We are fulfilling our dream, our vision of this republic, that we can transition power peacefully. This is a matter of the principles. We have proven that when we were in the Constitutional Convention and we were talking about, making statements that echoed John Winthrop's City Upon a Hill, that this is our chance. Benjamin Franklin said it. He was like, man, the world is waiting for us to fail. They're seeing like if we can even make this Constitution, this is our time to shine. And we shined. It works. It works. That's the revolution. It's peaceful. No violence. No war. It's beautiful. It's great. It's fantastic. But now, Jefferson's in charge. Now we're going to go. He's ideologically opposite to what the Federalists have been doing under Washington and Adams. He had 12 years of Federalists. Now what? What's going to happen? Is Jefferson going to, is he going to cause chaos with going a total different way? Or, and we'll leave it like that.